Let's continue this journey. In an earlier presentation, we talked about some of the factors which are important to us as we begin to travel to different countries. So, what are the conditions that should be available, that should be accessible in terms of our own personal safety and the convenience, the ease of operation, the ease of all aspects of the logistics. We provided a list at a personal level, and then we sort of extended the same argument to say that looking at it from the other side of the argument, what could Pakistan do to enable the same types of opportunities and open the same doors to other companies, to people from other countries to want to, for them to want to visit Pakistan? And then the question that we were sort of going towards with that entire analysis was, what would it take for other countries, companies from other countries to feel comfortable in coming to Pakistan, setting up the shops in Pakistan, and to really facilitate the creation of of the foreign enterprise. Let's now talk about a very concrete, specific thing, method that Pakistan could deploy to really fast track the setup of foreign enterprises in Pakistan, which is to create sort of a company or a division or a department that's whole reason of being is to facilitate such an arrangement. The Bureau to facilitate foreign investment in Pakistan. So let's go ahead and see what the Bureau's charter and the responsibilities would be. So obviously, we just, as we said a moment ago, it's a recommendation, strong recommendation to create a department to support foreign companies through all phases of the business startup and development. As we can well imagine, when you want to set up a company, there are tons and tons of bureaucratic requirements that you have to go through. You have to find a place, obviously. You have to make sure that it checks out all the boxes in terms of the availability, the resource availability, the raw material, the transportation, logistics, all those layers the actual operations of your operation. They have to be obviously checked up, and in addition to that, all kinds of permits, the regulation, the compliance, that you meet all of those criteria. The goods that you manufacture, you're able to send it abroad. Your logistics for transportation, everything is covered. So we and in earlier presentation we talked about all the factors which are important for a company as they want to set up a shop in a different country. We are assuming that you've gone through that presentation. If you have not, we'll provide a link below. Please go ahead and check that out, and then you come back and resume the slide here. So here we are talking about understanding and knowing what all the challenges and pitfalls you might have to face when you want to set up a shop. Maybe facilitate that. How do we make things easy for you? The best way is for there to be a company whose reason of being is to make things easy for you. Once you are in touch with them, once they're cooperating with you, for them to pave the way for you, for them to remove all the roadblocks ahead of you, for them to facilitate every step of your operation, to facilitate that, to remove all the government bureaucracy. So that's really what this department's charter would be. So let's go ahead and look at some of the other things that the department could do. And of course, once we have got something like this in existence, then you don't just do things passively by waiting for the phone to ring or by waiting for an email to arrive. You need to be very proactive, which means your embassies, your consulates all over the world, which means your proactive social media campaign. It must invite participation by companies all over the world. It must bring it to their attention that Pakistan exists, this option exists for you, and here are the reasons why it should be a viable option for you to give it a due consideration. So, our embassies could play a critical role in making that happen. And as we have said throughout this series of presentations here, we are identifying challenges. We are identifying some of the best practices that we could perhaps imitate. But the most important thing of this is we don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel and start a process from scratch by coming up with a whole new, unique way of to solve it. The problems that Pakistan faces today, the problems which are compounding, which are profound in front of us, we're not the first country in the world to have faced these challenges. Many others have faced them, and they found a way to solve them. And if we can stumble upon those solutions, let's call them best practices, and let's maybe try to copy some of their playbooks and see how they did that. The best thing is that the information is readily available. Let's utilize that. Let's figure out what they did, what their challenges were, what their pitfalls were, maybe try to avoid some of the roadblocks that they had to face, and maybe utilize some of the best practices of what they how they actually did that. What India has done is a substantial step in this direction. So very close to the arena that we are sort of recommending here. India did that quite a few years ago. So back in 2015, they set up an entity called Invest India, which has just in 7 or 8 short years, it has become the number one global entity in terms of investment promotion agency, ranked so by United Nations and World Bank. Here's a link provided to you. We'll provide that in the details below. Please check out. It's a short, less than half-hour presentation. It goes you through the steps of what they were trying to do, how they did that, the step by step what they did. Um, we would be best advised to follow their example. Um, so I strongly suggest that we do something which is similar to this. Of course, something else before we jump on to the next topic is on the same point. When you're trying to imitate a best practice, what somebody else has done, never implies that we just steal their entire playbook and go word by word, page by page, and execute that within our platform, within our environment. Scenarios are different, situations are different, the contexts are different. We can just get the ideas, maybe the broader idea, and try to put the local flavor of how what we would need, what our starting point is, and based on that, come up with the best view and how we should approach it, how we ought to approach it, right? And not just copy what they did. What worked for China, for example, in the 1970s, what worked for Singapore in the 1980s, what worked for South Korea in the 1970s and 80s, it will not work for Pakistan purely because it's a different time, different people, different sensibilities, different people. Really as simple as that. And um, point being that we cannot just imitate somebody's plan as is. We need to recreate that using that as a guideline. So having said that, let's go ahead and see what else this group could do. So the charter of this investment bureau is to minimize all the bureaucratic hurdles. It's not just site selection, it's the permitting process. It's what kind of environmental impact it would have, maybe the environmental impact report, maybe the soil analysis, maybe the utilities availability, whatever this company would do, going with the assumption that a factory is created in Pakistan will create jobs, will create opportunities, will bring in the foreign investment in the country, will spawn off the whole slew of related activities and industries that'll benefit the country as a whole. If that's the underlying premise of this argument here, then we should facilitate every step of the way to make it easy for these companies to operate. So remove all the bureaucratic hurdles, facilitate them, shortcut them, fast track them, do whatever it takes. Fast track all permits and approval processes, facilitate the site selection. Once we understand what they're looking for, once we understand what geographical region they're looking at, what the radius from the whichever point, whether the port of entry or the airports or the seaport, whatever it is that they're looking for, within those areas, what are the land that's available? And we have seen tons and tons of examples of the joint ventures between foreign entities and the Pakistan government and the state government and even the city government, for them to say that we'll give you the land free of charge or we'll give you the land at a substantial discount, provided you come and set up the shop in our area, or we'll give you a tax holiday, whatever facilities are available are possible. I'm not just saying that we blindly offer them to every company out there, but just to make sure that whatever challenges the companies could be facing, we try to find a way to solve it for them before they become serious challenges in their operations. The hiring process. Any company that comes on board, before they open up the doors, before the first widget is being produced, they need to go through the whole process of finding the right workforce. What kind of workforce would they need? What could Pakistan potentially provide? What kind of training is required for that workforce? What kind of machines are needed? What kind of skills are needed? Everything that Pakistan could potentially foresee. Now, again, this is very beneficial when you are going towards a domain where you already have a competence in. But regardless of that, with this bureau is what we're envisioning here is something with a set of qualified business owners and experienced people who are running this, and they are in close contact with the end users who are availing of the services. Once they understand what their needs are, we should be able to put on our creative hats and solve the problems, and solve the need. Um, Initiate partnerships with the vocational training programs to create the training program specific to this business. Again, as we just mentioned a moment ago, that whatever kind of workforce this company would require, just like it's important for us to remove all the bureaucratic hurdles and pitfalls for them to start their operation. But once they start the operation, the right workforce is a critical part of it for us to provide them. So one strong reason for them to want to come to Pakistan would be the access to the large talent pool that Pakistan could potentially make available by their extensive vocational training programs. This would come in really handy. And then form partnerships with colleges and universities. Again, when a factory comes into a new place, it's not just to create widgets based on the predefined standards. Companies have a long time span, and in the process, they do tons of innovation, research and development, come up with new technologies, new ways of implement the products, new methodologies for our universities, for our research centers to be a critical part of that. So we just talked about the talent pool from the workers' point of view. Similar to that, a talent pool from the research point of view. What support could our university provide to these foreign entities to manage all the research, what they would need to prosper and to remain a strong contender within the global workplace. Remember, competition is intense. It's severe all over the world. The fear of disruption is severe all over the world. So, what can Pakistan do to make it easier for these companies to remain competitive in the global competitive playing field? So internship opportunities for students, for them to come and work in these companies, for them to feel, to see for themselves what the internal operation looks like, and then hopefully for them to be able to come and find a job once they graduate. And then the job pipeline. So the skilled people are able to not just apply for a job, but eventually, once an enterprise comes to a country, all the ancillary service providers they become relevant as well. So for that, once we have established a need for us to be able to spin off those types of operations, again, once the main company is successful, then the other opportunities become possible. So again, the whole bureau, the whole system, the whole ecosystem that we hopefully develop could take us towards that. And then, of course, facilitate the selection of vendors and the subcontractors with a view to spin off a roster of skill providers. As we have said time and time again, and no company can operate when they do everything, all aspects of their operation and assembly under the same roof. Companies have vendors. Vendors can do maybe sub-assemblies and bring them on board, and the companies can do the final assembly themselves. Look at how a car goes through the whole manufacturing process. The cars typically, for the most part, they do the final assembly themselves, while the engine, the transmission block, for example, the chassis of the car, the door, the whole assembly of the door, the bumpers, they all come from other companies. They provide those modules based on the specifications of the car maker. And once the those semi good, semi working products come on board, the company just manufacture and put them all together. So all those companies, the doors and the dashboards and the chassis and the batteries and the transmission, they have to be made by other companies. So once a car maker, figuratively speaking, in this example, comes into being, then the other industries they get spun off as well, and they become vibrant in terms of the demand for their products and services. And then, of course, provide unlimited support for operation and conflict resolution. Again, the whole point notion of this presentation here is for us to create an environment, an ecosystem that benefits all these foreign companies from coming in, and for them to take advantage of the provision which are made available. And this division, this department, this sort of works hand in hand with them to facilitate all aspects of their operation. All right. So what are the bonus, extra benefits that once you are able to put into practice something like this, then of course the companies benefit. Of course, I mean that's a given. Companies would not be doing this or would not do this on a long term unless they see a substantial benefit, huge ROI, return on their investment of their time and efforts, and they see a benefit in that. Great for them. But what about us? What's the benefit there for us? So here are a few slides that will Pakistan will not just benefit at the smaller at the micro level from each intersection interaction, but at the macro level at the nation level, what the whole development of this ecosystem would mean for us. So if Pakistan could potentially become a hub for a specific product or industry, it would then spawn the whole ecosystem for talent management and support services. And some recommendations on how to do this: create a department that we just talked about that's dedicated to the success of these ventures, and then create a process for easy setup and operation of the organization, which effectively means that let them focus on the core competence, or whether it's product or an assembly or the design or the quality aspects of it, and let uh, the whole ecosystem that we are trying to promote here, let this sort of manage all the superfluous operations of the company. Let the company focus on the core competence and let this entity manage and help with everything else. Makes it easier. It's a win-win for everyone. Um, and then promote these services in international marketplaces. Assuming that this model is tried and is successful at a micro level, what does it take for us to then spread the word around, for anybody else in the world to read this case study somewhere and say, hey, wow, somebody benefited from this. They went over there, they took the core team and the design idea with them, and Pakistan through this department, through this entity, managed everything else, gave us all the facilities that they needed. Imagine how many doors could potentially open for us. And you said earlier, again repeating it, because a lot emphasis should be made here on this point, that our pathway to come to Pakistan usually begins by our foreign embassies and consul generals. That's where somebody would want to go and start off the operation. People, Jones, when they're thinking about a different country, they don't just hop on a plane and come over. They try to find a local partner. And but how do I do this? How do we know that I can trust the entity? It goes through an official channel. Embassies are those official channels. They have got trade attaches, they've got the trade desk, effectively whose job it is to facilitate these types of operations. How successful they have been over the years. This in this presentation we have decided consciously to not talk about the past, to critique the current operation or lack of operation. All we are trying to do is we are trying to identify the best practice of what should be done. If it's not done today, let's make it a plan to do it from here on out. So for all embassies to be a part of the solution here, which means whatever we're designing, whatever the presentations are, whatever the checklists are, whatever it is that we need to do, these embassies would become the front of it to be able to manage them, which means effectively think about it. You are sitting in Zimbabwe, you're sitting in Sudan, you're sitting in Ireland, and you've got a need, and you came across a presentation online, and now you want to consider Pakistan. What would you do? Find the local embassy, make an appointment, go see the somebody in the trade department. They sit you down, someone interviews you, someone tries to ascertain what your needs are. You go through, maybe spend half a day there, go through the whole round of video presentations, maybe set up online meeting discussion with someone who they help you create your business plan. They look at your need analysis, the kind of all kinds of perform all kinds of analysis to help you whittle down your goals, your objectives, what you're trying to do, and really facilitate that. Imagine having a partnership at that level where a country can make all the resources available for you before you even taken the first step, before you've given them a check. Imagine being able to do that. That's the role that these our embassies could play and they should play in the spread of this process. Again, we're trying to build an ecosystem that benefits everyone else, and by extension, huge benefit to our country as well.